today. Jeff Corcini and Russ Bliss from FantasyFootballStarters.com joining us this morning to talk a little bit about that matchup and also to give you some of the tips that we get every week on your fantasy football teams. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Doing real good.
Good.
All season.
We get double the treat today, having both of you guys give us tips today.
Well, we're going to talk about the fantasy playoff weekends, and so I got to bring in one of the other experts, Russ, here to talk about that too.
All right, Jeff, let's start out with the teams to avoid because they're on a bye week this week.
That's right. We were starting out with Buffalo Bills, Cleveland Browns, Minnesota Vikings, New York Jets, St. Louis Rams, Oakland Raiders. They're on bye weeks this week, Tess, so you don't want to start any players this week from those teams.
Okay. And then, Russ, talk about an update on the injuries this week. Who got hurt?
Well, of course, Anquan Boldin for the Arizona Cardinals. He's questionable to play, very questionable. Going to be a game-time decision because of the ankle injury. Calvin Johnson, the wide receiver for the Lions, is also questionable, but he is expected to play. Donald Driver is probable. He did practice on Friday, so he's going to play through the next stinger. His teammate Aaron Rodgers for the Packers, also probable. He's got a foot sprain, but he's going to play. And Sammy Morris, the running back for the New England Patriots, still not back yet from his knee injury. He's out for this week.
So some of the guys who have injuries, would you want to not play them at all then, even if they've had minor injuries?
It all depends as to who else you have on your roster. If you don't have really good quality players, then yeah, you want to play these guys.
Okay.
If you do have them, you want to take a look at them and seriously consider them.
All right. That's how we get the tips from you guys. All right, so we're only in week 9, but we're looking ahead to weeks 14, 15, and 16. Why are those weeks important? And especially looking at the quarterback matchups.
Yeah, what we're looking at is who has favorable matchups against the pass and against the run. So if you look at teams in weeks 14 through 16 that are to help you in the playoffs, starts off with San Diego Chargers and Phillip Rivers. Good team. They've got favorable matchups. They're going up against teams like Tennessee during those weeks. If you've got Malcolm Floyd, if you've got Phillip Rivers, if you have Antonio Gates or Vincent Jackson, those are great plays for San Diego during that week. And then you've also got in those weeks, you've got the New Orleans Saints and Drew Brees.
Okay.
And his weapons, Jeremy Shockey, Marquise Colston. In weeks 14 through 16, they're playing Atlanta. They're also playing Tampa Bay. So they have real favorable matchups when you're in those weeks. You want to play those guys. And then our Arizona Cardinals.
We're watching Kurt Warner.
Yeah, Kurt Warner during the playoffs, for weeks 14 through 16, they're going to play the Rams. They're going to play probably Seattle. So Larry Fitzgerald, Kurt Warner, you've got Anquan Boldin. Those are good guys that you want to have, Tess, and probably start or go after for those playoff weeks.
And a lot of people probably don't look that far ahead. They're just going week to week.
Well, when you're in fantasy football, it's all about looking a little bit ahead.
Love that. All right, Russ, talk about who are some of the running backs that we should be looking ahead towards for those weeks.
Well, for those 3 important playoff weeks for fantasy football, you definitely want to look at the matchups, and you look at the Tennessee Titans with Chris Johnson. Chris Johnson has got some incredible matchups those weeks. Then also Lendale White, his backup at Tennessee, also another guy that you want to be taking a look at. Good guy to stash on your bench. Another team is the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins have got Ronnie Brown and Ricky Williams, both of whom are on pace for over 1,000 yards this season.
Yeah.
They've got great matchups in weeks 14 through 16. You can probably acquire either of these guys because neither one is considered to be a true feature guy, so you want to go out and try and get them. And finally, Michael Turner for the Atlanta Falcons. Michael Turner's got some great matchups those 3 weeks. You definitely like having a feature running back, a guy that gets 20-plus carries a game on your starting roster when it comes around to the fantasy playoffs.
I got to get him to smile, Tess. Too early.
It's serious
He's so
business,
serious
that's
about
why.
it, isn't he? That's right.
I always say they eat and breathe fantasy football, or football, I should say, period. Not just during this time, but throughout the entire year. All right, we talked about the good. Let's talk about the bad. Jeff, some quarterbacks that could be in for some bad weeks when the fantasy football playoffs start in a few weeks.
That's right. That's a really good point. A couple of Matt Ryan for the Atlanta Falcons is going to struggle a little bit. They play some teams that are pretty tough against the pass. So you want to keep an eye, look out for those guys. Even though he's got players like Tony Gonzalez and Roddy White, you may want to avoid some players on the Atlanta Falcons.
All right. What about Cowboys?
Tony Romo. Got to give Javier a hard time about that. The Cowboys have a tough schedule for weeks 14 through 16. They're going to be playing their divisional foes, the Washington Redskins and the New York Giants, and those guys play pretty well against the pass. So Romo may struggle a little bit, and those Cowboys may struggle during that period of time. And then the other one is the other Manning, Eli Manning, New York Giants. Same thing, playing divisional foes. Tough matchups against the pass. So Mario Manningham, if you've got Kevin Boss and Eli Manning, you may want to start to maybe think about trading those guys for some of the guys we talked about earlier, Tess, that have good matchups.
Okay. We always use the buy high,
Buy low,
sell high analogy. The stocks on some running backs are meanwhile plummeting. Let's, I guess we could say for Matt Forte, it could be a bear market, is what you're saying.
Yeah, Matt Forte and the Chicago Bears faced 3 top 10 run defenses in weeks 14, 15, and 16. So definitely a guy that you would rather not have on your fantasy roster, but he's got a lot of name value, so you can trade him and get good value in return for him, and then you possibly have better matchups for those 3 weeks. Another guy also is the San Diego Chargers, LaDainian Tomlinson. LT has got some very poor matchups those weeks. Excuse me. And LaDainian Tomlinson hasn't been producing the way that LT normally has produced, so definitely you want to take advantage of name value there. And the final guy is Kevin Smith for the Detroit Lions. Kevin Smith is a workhorse running back, but poor matchups, a poor passing game, a poor offensive line. That's a bad combo. You would rather have somebody else on your fantasy starting roster.
Are you suggesting to trade these guys or keep them on, just keep them back on your bench?
No, I would try and trade them. I would try and take advantage of the name value that they have and get yourself players with much better matchups that you can plug in with more confidence.
All right. Now, today's matchup, of course, our Arizona Cardinals versus the Chicago Bears. Jeff, offense at this point, still anyone's guess.
Yeah, it is, you know, and we look at it, and we're actually, our power analyzers predicting that the Bears will beat the Cardinals 23-21. But when you look at it, Beanie Wells, for example, he's starting to run the ball pretty good. The Chicago Bears have allowed 322 rushing yards in the last 2 games against their 2 opponents. So we could run this ball, and he could run, and this may be a breakout game because you want to go on the road, you want to establish the run. Those are really, really important. The other thing is, too, is when is Larry Fitzgerald going to blow up and have that big game that everybody's been waiting for? So on the offensive side, there may be some opportunities here. The running game, this could be a good matchup for the Cardinals. And
especially looking at their history for their away games. I mean, it's been great. So
playing real good on the road.
All right. And Russ, talk about up until at least last week, the stout defense had been stout. That all changed, of course. Not, you know, they're allowing some of their opponents with the ball.
Yeah, the Carolina Panthers, we saw it earlier in the segment. They ran for 270 yards against the Cardinals last week. So that was a lot of yards that the Cardinals gave up. But the Cardinals, up until then, had been the #1 ranked run defense. And Matt Forte has not been running with particular effectiveness this year. So that's going to be a very interesting matchup to see how that works today, because the Bears are going to want to pound the football. Also with the Cardinals, their defense on the road has been outstanding. They've been getting sacks and turnovers, 12 sacks in 3 road games, 9 turnovers in 3 road games. And Jay Cutler in his last 3 games, only 3 touchdown passes, 6 interceptions. Look for the Cardinals to be very aggressive against him today.
Yeah, you know, Darnell Dockett really went on record this week, just not calling out his team players, but saying, hey, look, you know, we need to be more focused in practice. So I think they're going to go after it. I really think they are. I think they're going to be fired up. They lost, and going on the road, they want to establish it. So I don't know, Tess. We talked them up last week, and now, you know, I think this is the week that the Cardinals will come through.
Well, let's hope. And we've got a crew down there. We'll have live coverage for you later on in the shows. Also, just want to remind folks, you guys have a free offer for our viewers.
Absolutely. If you go to fantasyfootballstarters.com, register only, and then you email Jeff at fantasyfootballstarters.com, Tess, I will upgrade anybody to our Power Player package that features all of our predictions, our trade analyzer, our smart alerts. You get power rankings, everything. It's a great value, absolutely free. Just email Jeff at fantasyfootballstarters.com.
Fantastic. We'll put a link on our website to theirs, too, so you can get more information. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next Sunday.
You got it.
All right, go Cards. Coming up.